Let's talk about family conflict resolution scenarios. I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach all over the world about parenting, good communication, how to build strong family bonds, child development, and education, all through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, we're talking about conflict resolution. In this video, we're going to talk about multiple different family conflict scenarios that you might be experiencing. And then we're going to talk about how to resolve those conflicts calmly. And stay to the end because I've got a free gift for you that will help you with any of your family conflict resolution. First conflict scenario, probably one of the most basic, which is, this is mine, right? Mine. Whose is whose? Who does that thing belong to? That is super common. People will argue, no, it's mine because I had it here. I put it here. No, it's mine because I used it last and I put it over here. And suddenly we have fight that needs to happen. So for this type of a conflict, I recommend doing what I call a group problem-solving session. So when you do a group problem-solving session, then you gather the whole group up, usually moving away from the area where the conflict originated. So if it's a toy, or it's a movie, or the remote control, or whatever it is that people happen to be arguing about, the seat belt and who sits in the middle seat. Okay, get out of the car, move away from the scenario. Then you say, okay, it looks like we need to talk about what's happening here. So then what I would do is I would start with one person. They get to share the whole story with me. Then I actively listen. I repeat back what I heard. Then the next person, then the next person. They don't get to interrupt each other. That's a no answer. Then at the end, I decide how they all could have behaved properly. Now I know that if this is a group of adults, that might look a little bit different, but sometimes you still need somebody to mediate. In fact, that's oftentimes the way people end up seeking out counselors and therapists or mentors and good friends so that they can help mediate in these difficult situations. So part of this mediation, with everyone talking about what belongs to who, I would probably bring up some of the skills of self-government that they might be missing, that they need to work on. So if one person took something that didn't belong to them, then they're not accepting a no answer, because anytime we cross over a boundary line, that is not accepting a no answer. If somebody else tried to grab it back or started yelling at somebody else, well, they're not disagreeing appropriately. That's another one of our 4 basic skills of self-government, and so they would need to be corrected for that. Now again, if you're working with adults in this type of a scenario and people are debating who touched what last and whose was whose, you're not going to be correcting them per se, but you might point out, hey, so-and-so, let's disagree appropriately, or let's communicate calmly. This brings me to the second scenario that is worth mention, which is that sometimes people feel anxious or uptight, they're stressed, and they stop communicating calmly. They start communicating emotionally. As soon as you start emotionally dumping on another person, the other person feels mistreated or misunderstood, and they'll start fighting back. Before you know it, you have a power struggle. The person who is just feeling overwhelmed and stressed actually started the power struggle without knowing it, because the tension and the chemicals in their brain were firing at high speeds. Okay, so what do you do about that? Well, what you do about that is you help the person get to a place of calmness. Again, you might have a group problem-solving session. Let's not recap how to do that, but you might also need to help everybody work through a calm plan. If everybody has their own calm plan because they're working on self-government already, this is going to be very beneficial. Now again, if you're working with adults, they don't have calm plans, maybe they've never heard of self-government before, they're just angry and frustrated and taking it out on other people, then you have a little bit different scenario on your hands. But let's say that all children, and it's like mother and she's over all the kids that are there, and the children are getting stressed and they're taking it out on each other. Well, then at that point, mom can say, let's have a group problem-solving session, and she could probably say to one child, you know what, it looks like we need to go through your calm plan right now. Let's work through some of your calm strategies. Let's definitely take some deep breaths. Tell your brain this is okay. Let's focus on the skills that you need to be working on. Have we tried that disagree appropriately skill? Let's let's work on doing that right now. She's going to help coach through that type of scenario. So when you're working with an adult, what you might need to say is something like a disagree appropriately statement, where you say, I can tell right now that you really need to talk about this, and you're not feeling understood right now. And that makes total sense. But let's just take a second and get calm first. And then let's focus on talking about this, because if we're not in our right part of our brain, we're not going to be able to fix the problem. And that is a truth you can say no matter what to anybody who's out of control. If we're not in our right part of the brain, if the wrong chemicals are firing, we're not going to be able to solve the problem. We have to be in front brain to solve the problem. I have a whole little series of children's books. They're called The Calm Crew, and they talk about how the brain functions and teaches little children what part of the brain that they want to stay in, and when they're going out of control, what part of their brain that they're at. I mean, even little tiny children can learn this. So just giving it a little bit of lip service as you're describing something for somebody, even if they're an adult, can absolutely work. So let's talk about boundary issues. People cross over boundaries all the time. They don't always know when they're doing it, and they don't know how it's going to affect other people, which can be a really big situation. So let's say you're at a family gathering or something, and somebody makes a joke and it's at your expense. That doesn't feel very nice. That is a boundary line they should not have crossed over. But now you feel embarrassed because maybe what they said was true, but you didn't want it to be said at this big party with all of your extended family there. You wanted to be respected, and you didn't feel respected. When we cross over boundary lines that we shouldn't, we're actually disrespecting other people. So what can we do about that? I think once those situations occur, we absolutely have to have a moment of understanding. So again, we're back to a group problem-solving session, probably with these two people, where they're able to explain how they feel to each other, not in angry ways, but just to say, hey, listen, when you did this, this is what happened. And the other person, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't think about that. I was trying to be funny. It just popped into my head. I apologize. And then maybe they could even say, well, how are you going to fix it? Well, you know what? I'm going to tell everybody that was insensitive for me to say, and I shouldn't do that. Or they might say, don't even say anything about it to anybody, but just let's not do that again. And they can give somebody an assurance that they're going to protect their name, not embarrass them, and not cross over those boundary lines that they shouldn't do. Now, of course, boundary lines could also be crossed physically. Those types of things can also make a family conflict as well. Another thing along those same lines that often creates a family conflict is when we are assuming things about other people and we're judging people. So when you've got something going on in your head about another person, even if it's never said on the outside, it can create tension and walls. The only way to fix that family conflict is to bring things into the light. So again, having a kind of a group problem-solving session where a person comes together, they discuss things and talk about how to handle problems better in the future is going to be some of your best solutions for that. But everybody's going to have to take a humility pill. They're going to have to admit where they went wrong. The only way to solve family conflict is to be completely honest with yourself about your own behaviors, take full responsibility for you, not keep blaming everybody else around you. Even though families grow up together, when they get older, sometimes people change. They meet new people, they do new things with their lives, they sometimes even live in different ways, and this can create a cultural divide in a family. There's a feeling of disconnection or even pain because the person you used to have a bond with because you did everything the same now suddenly isn't the same as you. And that's hard. Maybe suddenly you're different religions, or you live in different places or in the world, or you just see certain ideological things or political things different. I mean, political, that's a big one, right? Like people can be different political parties even though they were all raised thinking the same thing. That can happen. So what do you do in those moments? Well, one of the best things you can do is seek to understand, then to be understood. That is a tone that you should carry. Like, hey, I'm going to understand where this other person's coming from. I don't have to agree. Don't tell yourself that when you understand you have to agree, because that's not the same thing. You don't. You just have to listen, see where they're coming from, appreciate the fact that they're telling you where they're coming from. And then hopefully they can seek to understand you too. And hopefully you can say, we're not going to see this issue the same because we definitely, are in different political camps. But you know what? I think that we at least now know more about what the other side of the issue is thinking about and caring about. And I think both sides are being caring, and that's important. This is stuff that people used to do all the time. This is a mature skill to be able to be different, but to find common ground. We should be able to do that in families. We shouldn't let the little things of this world or the differences of opinion or some of the little ways that we live our life divide our hearts from each other. Our families are supposed to be united together, and we need to overcome those situations. So there is a skill for these cultural differences that we might be confronted with. If you use the skill disagreeing appropriately and the tone element seeking to understand, then to be understood, then that could really help you a lot. I would also say focus on building that relationship and making it strong. There's so much more that I can share with you, and I'm going to do that now. I have a free gift for you all about conflict resolution strategies. I have a PDF that I would like to give you that will help you get started and give you the things that you can use right in the minute when conflict is happening. So if you go to the URL teachselfgov.com/strategy, teachselfgov.com/strategy. I'll see you there.